Good morning and welcome to Saturday's Valentine's edition of your Early Morning Intuitive Guidance. I'm Dr. Bonnie Nussbaum, here with some words of wisdom to start your day off well. And this is funny because I wasn't remembering it was Valentine's Day and just got the hit that I was to pick the Sharon Ellison book, Taking the War Out of Our Words, The Art of Powerful Non-Defensive Communication. And somehow I think this is apropos for this particular holiday. So we've got a reading that we'll go over on the prediction, which is basically when you are telling someone what you will do based on what choice they make. And the whole point of it is to be informative, not coercive. Informative. So we'll talk about that. But let us start, as always, with some tapping and some breath, and we'll give time for people to hop on here. Breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Feel that fresh air just moving in and out, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And it might feel cool coming in through your nose and warmer going out through your mouth. Just notice. Pay attention with all of your senses. What you notice about breathing. You can hear it. Breathe in. Breathe out. You can feel it. Breathe in. Breathe out. You can taste it, depending on what you've had. I taste toothpaste. Good morning, Abigail. Glad you're here. You're the first one popping on this morning. Breathing in. Breathing out. Good morning, Maureen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Valentine's Day to the two of you. Happy Valentine's Day to anybody who's watching. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. And if this point you're feeling a little lightheaded, that's a sign for you. That lets you know that you do not breathe deeply enough as you go about your day. So here and there, if you can remember, sometimes I've taught clients to set an alarm on their phone every hour on the hour just to remind themselves to take some deeper breaths. And over time, you'll get to the point where you are no longer lightheaded when you take a deep breath. Look at all those hearts flying around. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. So, yeah, Valentine's Day. Let's take a breath and just slow everything down a bit. And notice. Notice what you feel. Notice how you're interacting with your world. Good morning, Beth. Welcome. There's our happy lion. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad you're here. Just notice what you notice in your body. Like this morning, what I noticed was my knees hurt. And I think it was a function of not enough to drink yesterday, up and down the stairs a bazillion times with laundry, all kinds of stuff. So today I will be attentive to what my body needs. So I hope everybody is off to a good start for their Valentine's Day. And let's make sure that it goes even better by talking about Taking the War Out of Our Words, The Art of Powerful Non-Defensive Communication by Sharon Ellison. I love this book. I have this book and Tosha Silver are the two that sit in my container on the desk. The rest of the stuff, it's all off on the bookshelf. But these two, I think, are incredibly important in terms of helping us view life through a healthy lens and helping us create amazing, powerfully strong relationships with others. So that's kind of the focus for today. This is chapter 10. For those of you who have the book and want to drag it out and read along, it's chapter 10, The Prediction, a new prescription for security. It is on page 165. And again, as I said in the beginning, this is prediction to help someone understand ahead of time what you are going to do based on what they choose to do. It is not coercion. Either you do this or I'll do that. No, 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 no. That's not what we're doing here. And she does a really good job of articulating that in this little part I'm going to read. So, shall we? Breath in, breath out. Security is the missing element in our habitual way of making predictions. Just as curiosity is absent from our questions and vulnerability is absent from our statements. So statements, questions, and predictions are the tools that she teaches us in this book for having better relationships with others. But now she's talking about how we've used them inappropriately. I mean, think about questions. When we are asking a question, what did you do that for? That clearly is not coming from a curious perspective. So we're looking for the security element in our way of making predictions. Good morning, Barb. Welcome, welcome. We are doing chapter 10, The Prediction, in Sharon Ellison's Taking the War Out of Our Words, in case you want to dig out your book. So, either by manipulating with a covert bribe or coercing with an overt threat, we have conventionally used predictions to get people to comply with our will. So that doesn't sound like we're allowing the other person their sovereignty, does it? Yeah. So let's take a whack at this. Let's see what we can do to freshen this up, shall we? Same to you. Happy Valentine's Day. That's why we're reading this. We're improving our relationships. While Corey, so there's a lot of different vignettes that Sharon Ellison uses throughout the book. So Corey, who she's just mentioning, it's a mother-daughter. Corey's the mom. And they have conflict. It's a teenage daughter. Surprise, surprise, they have conflict about doing housework, chores, etc. So Corey had a legitimate need for her daughter to do more of the housework. Her intention when she threatened, I won't buy your prom dress if you don't shape up and help around here, was to make Beth feel insecure and frighten her into helping. Anybody want to make a guess on how well that worked? Yeah. Parents have typically said to me, I told Johnny he couldn't watch TV unless he got dressed, and it didn't work. I've worked with a lot of these parents, right? They're measuring the wrong outcome. They're measuring the wrong outcome. When I ask what they mean by it didn't work, the response, good morning, Joneel, glad you are here, welcome, welcome. And Maureen, I think I already said hi to you because you rolled before, I think. But welcome to everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. We are working on relationship issues. Surprise, surprise. Perfect, right? So when I ask what they mean by it didn't work, the response is invariably, well, he didn't get dressed. In other words, he didn't make the choice the parents wanted him to make. That's not how prediction is meant to work. Prediction is meant to free us up. When we make a prediction, it's a win-win situation. If you get dressed, you can watch TV. If you choose not to get dressed, you won't get to watch TV. You've stated both ends of the opportunities here, and then you're open to however they choose. Either way, you win. That's how you're setting it up, so that it's a win-win regardless of what the other person in their sovereignty chooses to do. Okay? So let's keep going. And one of the things that I taught parents was, do not make any threats. Do not make any threats, and do not make a prediction that you are not willing 100% to follow through on. So for example, going back to the Corey one, I won't buy your prom dress if you don't shape up and help around here. Really? Are you really willing to make that dire a prediction to try to get your kid to do more around the house? I'm not sure I'd be willing to make that one. What I always told people and lived myself with my kids was, if you're going to make the prediction, you must follow through. You must. So if you're not going to be willing to follow through, don't make the prediction. Let us keep going, shall we? We act in a similar fashion with adults. So there was a couple, Hans and Franklin, and Franklin was kind of laissez-faire about getting ready and getting out the door on time, and Hans, being German, I get this, was spot on time. If you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. So that was their constant battle. Franklin's laxness about time always made them late for important events, which then upset Hans. One night, Hans made the following prediction: "If you are not ready to leave for the theater promptly at 7, I will drive my own car." There's the prediction, right? He can also do the other half of the prediction, which she strongly recommends, that you do both ends of the prediction. So that would look like, if you are not ready to leave for the theater promptly at 7, I will drive my own car. If you are ready at 7, we can go together. Gives both ends, okay? When Franklin remained true to form and was late, Hans drove to the theater by himself. But listen here. Frustrated that his prediction didn't work. It absolutely worked. He had succeeded in carrying it through, but he believed he had failed because Franklin hadn't made the choice Hans preferred. Nope. That's not the outcome we're aiming for. The outcome we're looking for is whatever Franklin chooses, Hans follows through. Win-win. Okay? Hans remained locked in the power struggle, and that is the crux of this thing. When we're trying to manipulate someone else's choices, it's a power struggle. And I don't know about for you, but 64.9 years into this thing, I can certainly see that power struggles end up being a lose-lose. Hans remained locked in the power struggle, even though his prediction had fulfilled its purpose. He had made it to the theater on time. Yet he wasn't allowing himself to feel satisfied with that, because it didn't play out the way he wanted. Many of us think a prediction is not effective until the other person does what we want. But when we try to control what choice another person makes, our prediction backfires. We usher in more resistance and power struggle, and we pay the price of eroded trust and diminished productivity. And happiness. If he had truly bought into the prediction he was making, he would have been perfectly happy to go to the theater on his own, arrive on time, be in his seat, all set to go when Franklin came roaring in late. Miffed because they didn't go together, blah, blah. Let those consequences, those natural consequences, work for you. Maybe it would take 3 or 4 times of Franklin having to take his own vehicle or staying home and pouting or whatever it's going to be for him to decide, well, maybe I can be ready by 7. Might work, might not. It might be the rest of their lives. Hans is driving to the theater by himself. He gets where he's going when he wants to be there. Win. So, she's talking now about the nature of prediction. And the nature of prediction there's several characteristics we're going to talk about. Protective, foretelling, neutral, definitive, and absolute. Those are the things we're going to be talking about. So a little chunk on each one. So, the character of a non-defensive prediction is not coaxing, manipulative, coercive, or threatening. It is secure, predictable, and stable. Think about this with little kids. If you touch that, I'm going to slap your hand. A little bit of threatening there, don't you think? If, on the other hand, we say, if you touch that, I'm going to remove you from the room. If you keep your hands off of it, you can stay in here with me. They touch it, you very calmly move them to another room. They're pitching a hissy, which they usually do. But you are predictable, secure, stable. They know exactly what to expect from you every single time. That is good parenting. That is good parenting. It's also good partnering. That you know every single time you're not ready by 7 o'clock, I'm hopping in my car and leaving. Predictable. Okay, so the first little chunk we're going to talk about here is protective. I believe the essential character of a non-defensive prediction is protective. When a wilderness guide describes the respective nature of 2 paths issuing from the fork in the trail, one becoming steep and rocky and the other meandering along a river, the intention is not to dominate you. The guide's purpose is to offer accurate information so we can make an informed choice regarding the probable consequence of following one path or another. We are told as clearly as possible what we will encounter before we decide upon our path. In direct contrast to our traditionally threatening ways of using predictions, this offers us a glimpse of the future so we can feel secure in knowing that we are mentally and physically prepared to manage what we encounter. Protective. Next one is foretelling. Our eyesight guides us through our physical environment and allows us to anticipate the consequences of our movements. If we miscalculate the distance of a stair when we step down, we may fall or violently jar ourselves. When we cannot accurately predict the consequences of our movement, we may be unprepared to respond quickly enough to prevent injury. Good morning, Nancy. Glad you are here. Welcome, welcome. We have Sharon Ellison taking the war out of our words. In our human relationships, we also need to be able to anticipate the consequences of our actions if we are to feel mentally and emotionally prepared to handle a given situation. Unexpected results can be jarring to the psyche. Good morning, Carolyn. Good morning, good morning. Happy Valentine's Day to you as well. So we are doing some relationship stuff today. So, companies that take the time to prepare employees for potential changes reap the benefits of improved morale and production. In contrast, when employees unexpectedly experience the consequences of decisions already implemented or of changes that have already occurred, the damage to their equilibrium is severe. Oh, by the way, you're all off tomorrow because blah, blah, blah. I'm not prepared. I don't have childcare. I don't, whatever. So, predicting changes in our personal relationships is equally important. Anytime we can make a prediction, we help the other person know as much as possible the consequences of the various available choices. And in most cases, most of us will lay out two choices, either this or that. Sometimes there's many more choices than that. You could choose this, this, or this. Here are the outcomes, this, this, and this. Lay out the choices as you see them. They may come up with another choice. Who knows? So here we go. Back to Hans. When Hans made a prediction, he gave Franklin the ability to visualize in preview what the consequences would be if he was not ready on time. Franklin had the opportunity to evaluate his choices in advance. He merely waited out that it was less of a big deal to be late and drive himself than it was to rush to try to be ready at 7 o'clock and go with Hans. That's how he calculated it. That might not have been how Hans wanted him to calculate it, but it was how he calculated it. When we make a prediction, we hypothesize about something that hasn't happened yet. We're predicting the future, right? Neither party can be absolutely certain that the predicted consequences will happen because they are postulates about the future based on current data. Hans might have gone to his car and found the battery dead, in which case he would not have been able to drive his car as he had predicted. While it provides us with advanced information, a prediction is still a statement of probability. Next section is neutral. These predictions need to be delivered with a tone of neutrality, okay? And one of the things I also caution people is err on the side of doing it early. Err on the side of you feeling petty. Well, that really isn't that big a deal. 3 times later, it's a big deal because you didn't address it when it was a little deal. Err on the side of feeling petty. Address it when it's a little deal. The toilet seat being left up. The first time it happens, you may just put it down and grumble a little bit. The 12th time it happens, you may slam that seat down, yell at the whole household, blah, blah, blah. Address it when it's just the irritation, not when you're off the deep end about it, okay? So neutral. If we are truly neutral, we are not invested in influencing how the other person chooses to respond. We're merely laying out the consequences. We predict only how we intend to respond to the various choices another person might make. By not trying to control which choice, we neutralize the power struggle dynamic. Now, I will say, if you have a pattern of conflict with this person, the first few times you use this, they are still going to assume you're trying to manipulate their outcome, because that's what the history has been, right? So you need to stay in that neutral. Okay, so you chose this, I'm going to go do that. You chose that, I'm going to go do that. Regardless of which this or that you truly wanted to have happen, you still have your plans laid out in terms of what you're going to do. When we make a prediction, as with questions and statements involving interpretive feedback, we must convey neutrality in our tone of voice and body language. This takes practice and vigilance. No kidding. No kidding. Since a prediction can easily slide into a threat if it is infused with our feelings. Neutral tones and body language help to communicate that we are not seeking to dictate choices, that our prediction is not about power struggle. Consider the difference in the following motives. Here's the defensive controlling one. Hans predicts that he will take his own car if Franklin isn't ready on time because he wants to coerce Franklin into changing his habit of being late. Here's the non-defensive neutral. Hans predicts that he will take his own car if Franklin isn't ready on time because he is unwilling to continue to arrive late for events. In keeping with this, he is prepared to drive to the play alone and prepared that Franklin might not show up, or prepared that Franklin might be cranky about it. So be it. In order for Hans to be non-defensive, he must be prepared to leave punctually in his own car and let Franklin decide what he wants to do from there. Franklin's thinking could go along any of the following lines. It's worth it to be ready on time. It will prevent a conflict and we won't have to take two cars. If Hans leaves for the play without me, I'll have to drive myself. If he leaves without me, I'll just stay home. Again, there's three options there. Yeah. Next section is definitive. A non-defensive prediction defines very specifically how we will respond to the choice another person might make. You might say to a family member, if you don't bring your dirty clothes to the laundry room, then I will not do your wash. If you say, if you don't start cleaning up your room more, I'm not going to do anything for you. Too vague. What does that mean? Bringing the dishes down to the sink? Does that mean bringing the clothes to the laundry? Does that mean spraying for bugs? What does it mean? What does it mean, right? So here's another one. This was a divorced couple, and the ex-husband was not paying the alimony checks on time. In this day and age, that doesn't happen because they'll take your paycheck. But Geneva could tell Clyde, if you hold up my alimony check the next time I don't invite you for a holiday meal, then I will ask to sit down with you and it's adult children in order to decide how to deal with holidays in a way that feels fair to everyone. Our prediction thus provides precise information about how we will react to a particular choice the other person might make. So the last little section I want to read here is called absolute. If the walls and floor were to shift unpredictably as we walked across our living room, we would be totally disoriented. We need a structure to remain solid and stationary if we are to walk safely through it. I believe we need the same kind of safety in our interactions with each other. If our prediction is to provide a structure that lets another person anticipate as accurately as possible the consequences of a specific behavior, the prediction must be non-negotiable. You must follow through. If it flies out of your mouth, you must follow through. Hans must be willing to drive his own car every time Franklin is late. Once we create a consequence, if we change it at all, we move the wall, so to speak. It doesn't matter if we move it a few inches or a mile. Its position has changed. We have made a false threat and lost credibility. So, especially with kids. Kids are gamblers. They're going to take the chance that, 100 times mom followed through. One time she did not follow through. I'm willing to gamble on that. You must follow through. When we don't follow through on the consequences we predict, we fail to provide the kind of stable, secure structure each of us needs to feel safe in our relationships. So, There's our little Valentine reading, because we know relationships are not all bells and rainbows. It's hard work being in relationship with other humans. That's why we say things like, I'm peopled out today. That's why we talk lovingly about being a hermit. It's hard work to people. It is hard work to people. Well worth it, and so goes so much better when we do things in appropriate ways. Many of us have so many bad habits in terms of relating to others. So if you've never read this, or if you haven't read it in a while, haul this baby back out. This is a godsend in terms of relationship stuff. She is so practical and pragmatic and spot on, and it's easily practiced and utilized tools. That'd be a great Valentine's gift. Just saying. So this was a little longer today, but I felt like it was so important, especially on this day where we're celebrating relationship. Let's tune it up a bit. So have an awesome day. Today, tomorrow, and Monday are supposed to be absolutely gorgeous here, even getting into the 50s and sunny. Then we get, I think, 4 or 5 days of rain. But nonetheless, I'm going to be out there. I'm going to enjoy this. This is going to be good. And that white stuff that's out there, I think it's going to disappear. Not that it won't show back up, but nonetheless, it'll give the lawn a good drink, and on we go. See you tomorrow. Remember, you are capable of way more than you think you are, including modifying some of your habitual interactions with others such that it becomes a healthier relationship. Have at it. Bye-bye.